Today is day 59 of our 365-day Bible read. Today we're going to be reading from Numbers chapters 21, 22, and 23. And then we'll do the Bible study for Numbers 21, 22, and 23. And then we'll go on over to the New Testament and we'll read Mark chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. And then we're not going to do the Bible study for Mark chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. We're going to wait once we finish Mark chapter 8 tomorrow by reading verse 22 through 38. And then we'll do the Bible study for the entire Mark chapter 8 tomorrow once we finish the chapter. So yes, that is our day, and I'm going to get started. Numbers 21. Also, how I've been doing it is before I was reading like how I'd read how we're gonna read Numbers chapters 21, 22, and 23, and then once we're done reading all three chapters, I would do the Bible study for them once I'm done with all three. But instead, I started doing reading a chapter, then doing the Bible study for it after, and then reading the next chapter, then we'll do the Bible study for that one after, instead of reading the chapters and doing the Bible study all at the end. So we're going to do it that way. All right, so here we go. Numbers chapter 21. Arad destroyed. When the Canaanite, the king of Arad, who lived in the Negeb, heard that Israel was coming by the way of Athraim, he fought against Israel and took some of them captive. And Israel vowed a vow to the Lord and said, "If you will indeed give this people into my hand, then I will devote their cities to destruction." And the Lord heeded the voice of Israel and gave over the Canaanites, and they devoted them and their cities to destruction. So the name of the place was called Hormah, the bronze serpent. From Mount Hor, they set out by the way to the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom. And the people became impatient on the way. And the people spoke against God and against Moses. "Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and we loathe this worthless food." Then the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, so that many people of Israel died. And the people came to Moses and said, "We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord that he take away the serpents from us." So Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said to Moses, "Make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and everyone who is bitten when he sees it shall live." So Moses made a brown serpent and set it on a pole. And if a serpent bit anyone, he would look at the bronze serpent and live. The Song of the Well. And the people of Israel set out and camped in Oboth. And they set out from Oboth and camped in Il Abram, in the wilderness that is opposite Moab, toward the sunrise. From there they set out and camped in the valley of Zered. From there they set out and camped on the other side of the Arnon, which is in the wilderness that extends from the border of the Amorites. For the Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. Therefore it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord, Waheb and Supa, and the valleys of the Arnon, and the slope of the valleys that extends to the seat of Ar, and leans to the border of Moab, And from there they continued to Beer. That is the well of which the Lord said to Moses, gather the people together so that I may give them water. Then Israel sang this song. Spring up, O well, sing to it, the well that the princes made, that the nobles of the people dug with the scepter and with their staffs. And from the wilderness they went on to Mattanah, and from Mattanah to Nathaniel, and from Nahaliel to Abamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley lying in the region of Moab, by the top of Pisgah that looks down on the desert. King Sihon defeated. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, let me pass through your land. We will not turn aside into field or vineyard. We will not drink the water of a well. We will go by the king's highway until we have passed through your territory. But Sihon would not allow Israel to pass through his territory. He gathered all his people together and went out against Israel to the wilderness and came to Jahaz and fought against Israel. And Israel defeated him with the edge of the sword and took possession of his land from the Arnon to Jabbok, as far as the Amorites, for the border of the Ammonites was strong. And Israel took all these cities, and Israel settled in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon, and in all its villages. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab, and taken all his land out of his hand, as far as the Arnon. Therefore the ballad singers say, come to Heshbon, let it be built, let the city of Sihon be established. For fire came out from Heshbon, flame from the city of Sihon. It devoured Ar of Moab and swallowed the heights of the Arnon. Woe to you, O Moab! You are undone. You are undone, O people of Shemash. He has made his sons fugitives and his daughters captives to an Amorite king, Sihon, so we overthrew them. Heshbon, as far as Dibon, perished, and we laid waste as far as Nopah. Fire spread as far as Medeba. King Og defeated. Thus Israel lived in the land of the Amorites, and Moses sent to spy out Jazer, and they captured its villages and dispossessed the Amorites who were there. Then they turned and went up by the way to Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against them, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. But the Lord said to Moses, do not fear him, for I have given him into your hand, and all his people and his land. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived at Heshbon. So they defeated him and his sons and all his people until he had no survivor left, and they possessed his land. All right, so that was Numbers chapter 21. We're now going to do the Bible study for Numbers chapter 21, and then we'll go back and read Numbers chapter 22, then do the Bible study, and then we'll do Numbers chapter 23 and do the Bible study for that. And then we're going to go on over to the New Testament and read Mark chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. All right, so let's get started. Numbers chapter 21 Bible study. What did Israel complain about upon leaving Mount Hor? The people had no food and water and were tired of the manna. What did God do because of this complaint? God sent snakes to kill the people. Who would not let Israel pass through their land at this time? The Amorites would not let Israel pass through their land. What happened to these people? The Amorites attacked Israel but were severely defeated. Who came out against Israel when they left the city of Sihon? Og, king of Bashan, came out against Israel. What happened to these people? The people of Bashan were defeated by Israel. There were no survivors. All right, so that was the Bible study for Numbers chapter 21, and we're now going back to the Old Testament to Numbers chapter 22, and we'll read that and then we'll do the Bible study for Numbers chapter 22. All right, Numbers chapter 22. Balak summons Balaam. Then the people of Israel set out and camped in the plains of Moab, beyond the Jordan at Jericho. And Balak the son of Zippor saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was in great dread of the people, because there were many. Moab was overcome with fear of the people of Israel. And Moab said to the elders of Midian, "This horde will now lick up all that is around us, as the ox licks up the grass of the field." So Balak, the son of Zippor, who was king of Moab at that time, sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the people of Ammon, to call him, saying, "Behold, a people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the earth, and they are dwelling opposite me. Come now, curse this people for me, since they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them from the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed." So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the fees for the divination in their hand, and they came to Balaam and gave him Balak's message. And he said to them, "Lodge here tonight, and I will bring back word to you, as the Lord speaks to me." So the princes of Moab stayed with Balaam, and God came to Balaam and said, "Who are these men with you?" And Balaam said to God, "Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent to me, saying, Behold, a people has come out of Egypt, and it covers the face of the earth. Now come, curse them for me. Perhaps I shall be able to fight against them and drive them out." God said to Balaam, "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." So Balaam rose in the morning and said to the princes of Balak, "Go to your own land, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you." So the princes of Moab rose and went to Balak and said, "Balaam refuses to come with us." Once again, Balak sent princes more in number and more honorable than these, and they came to Balaam and said to him, "Thus says Balak, the son of Zippor, let nothing hinder you from coming to me, for I will surely do you great honor, and whatever you say to me I will do. Come, curse this people for me." But Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, "Though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go beyond the command of the Lord my God to do less or more. So you too, so you too, please stay here tonight, and I may know what more the Lord will say to me." And God came to Balaam at night and said to him, "If the men have come to call you, rise, go with them, but only do what I tell you." So Balaam rose in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the princes of Moab. Balaam's donkey and the angel. But God's anger was kindled because he went, and the angel of the Lord took his stand in the way as his adversary. Now he was riding on the donkey, and his two servants were with him. And the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. And the donkey turned aside out of the road and went into the field. And Balaam struck the donkey to turn her into the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between the vineyards with a wall on either side. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pushed against the wall and pressed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. Then the angel of the Lord went ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either to the right or to the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam, and Balaam's anger was kindled, and he struck the donkey with his staff. Then the Lord opened his mouth of the then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey and said to Balaam, "What have I done to you, that you have struck me these 3 times?" And Balaam said to the donkey, "Because you have made a fool of me. I wish I had a sword in my hand, for then I would kill you." And the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your donkey, on which you have ridden all your life long to this day? Is it my habit to treat you this way?" And he said, "No." Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. And he bowed down and fell on his face. And the angel of the Lord said to him, "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out to oppose you, because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned aside before me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely just now I would have killed you and let her live." Then Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned, for I did not know that you stood in the road against me. Now therefore, if it is evil in your sight, I will turn back." And the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but speak only the word that I tell you." So Balaam went on with the princes of Balak. When Balak heard that Balaam had come, he went out to meet him at the city of Moab, on the border formed by the Arnon, at the extremity of the border. And Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not send to you to call you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you?" Balaam said to Balak, "Behold, I have come to you. Have I now any power of my own to speak anything? The word that God puts in my mouth, that must I speak." Then Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kerioth Huzoth. And Balak sacrificed oxen and sheep and sent for Balaam and for the princes who were with him. And in the morning Balak took Balaam and brought him up to Bamoth Bal. Bamothbal. And from there he saw a fraction of the people. All right, so that was Numbers chapter 22. And we're now going to do the Bible study for Numbers chapter 22, and then we'll go back and read Numbers chapter 23, and then do the Bible study for that. And then we're going to go on over to the New Testament and read Mark chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. All right, Numbers chapter 22. Numbers chapter 22 Bible study. Why did Balak send for Balaam? Balak wanted to hire Balaam to curse the Israelites so he could defeat them. Why did God get angry with Balaam? Balaam did not do as God had instructed him, but rose to leave with the last group of men instead of waiting on them to come to him. When leaving, who spoke to Balaam? The angel of the Lord spoke to Balaam through the donkey. What did the angel of the Lord try to do to Balaam? The Lord came to kill Balaam. All right. So that was the Bible study for Numbers chapter 22. And we're now going to read Numbers chapter 23, and then we'll do the Bible study for Numbers chapter 23 before we go on over to the New Testament. All right. Numbers chapter 23. Balaam's first oracle. And Balaam said to Balak, "Build for me here 7 altars, and prepare for me here 7 bulls and 7 rams." Balak did as Balaam had said, and Balak and Balaam offered on each altar a bull and a ram. And Balaam said to Balak, "Stand beside your burnt offering, and I will go. Perhaps the Lord will come to meet me, and whatever he shows me, I will tell you." And he went to a bare height, and God met Balaam. And Balaam said to him, "I have arranged the 7 altars, and I have offered on each altar a bull and a ram." And the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, "Return to Balak, and thus you shall speak." And he returned to him, and behold, he and all the princes of Moab were standing beside his burnt offering. And Balaam took up his discourse and said, "From Aram Balak has brought me, to king of Moab from the eastern mountains. Come, curse Jacob for me, and come denounce Israel. How can I curse whom God has not cursed? How can I denounce whom the Lord has not denounced? For from the top of the crags I see him, from the hills I behold him. Behold, a people dwelling alone and not counting itself among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob or number the 4th part of Israel? Let me die the death of the upright, and let my end be like his." And Balak said to Balaam, "What have you done to me? I took you to curse my enemies, and behold, you have done nothing but bless them." And he answered and said, "Must I not take care to speak what the Lord puts in my mouth?" Balaam's second oracle. And Balak said to him, "Please come with me to another place from which you may see them. You shall see only a fraction of them, and shall not see them all. Then curse them for me from there." And he took him to the field of Zaphim, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 altars, and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Balaam said to Balak, "Stand here beside your burnt offering, while I meet the Lord over there." And the Lord met Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, "Return to Balak, and thus shall you speak." And he came to him, and behold, he was standing beside his burnt offering, and the princes of Moab with him. And Balak said to him, "What has the Lord spoken?" And Balaam took up his discourse and said, "Rise, Balak, and hear. Give ear to me, O son of Zippor. God is not man that he should lie, or a son of man that he should change his mind. Has he said, and will he not do it? Has he said, and will he not do it? Or has he spoken, and will he not fulfill it? Behold, I received a command to bless. He has blessed, and I cannot revoke it. He has not beheld misfortune in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. The Lord their God is with them, and the shout of a king is among them. God brings them out of Egypt, and is for them like the horns of the wild ox. For there is no enchantment against Jacob, no divination against Israel. Now it shall be said of Jacob and Israel, "What has God wrought? Behold, a people. As a lioness it rises up, and as a lion it lifts itself. It does not lie down until it has devoured the prey and drunk the blood of the slain." And Balak said to Balaam, "Do not curse them at all, and do not bless them at all." But Balaam answered Balak, Did I not tell you all that the Lord says that I must do? And Balak said to Balaam, Come now, I will take you to another place. Perhaps it will please God that you may curse them for me from there. So Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor, which overlooks the desert. Excuse me. Um, And Balaam said to Balak, Build for me here 7 altars and prepare for me here 7 bulls and 7 rams. And Balak did as Balaam had said and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. All right, so that was Numbers chapter 23. And we're now going to do the Bible study for what we just read in Numbers chapter 23. The Bible study for Numbers chapter 23 is only one question, so it'll be really fast. So after that, we're going to go on over to the New Testament and we're going to read Mark chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. And then we're not going to do the Bible study for what we read in Mark chapter 8 today. We'll wait until tomorrow once we finish Mark chapter 8 by reading verse 22 through 38. And I am following the year reading Bible schedule from esv.org. I started at January 1st's date so that we could read from the beginning of the Old Testament straight through and the beginning of the New Testament straight through. So that schedule splits up. Hello. So that schedule splits up some of the books of the New Testament because there's more books in the Old Testament than there is in the New Testament. So yeah. All right, so let's get started with the Bible study for Numbers chapter 23. It's just one question. Numbers chapter 23 Bible study. What prophesy did Balaam have for Balak? Balaam could not curse anyone God would not curse. He continued to bless Israel. All right, so that was all. It was literally one question. So we're going to read Mark chapter 8, verse 1 through 21, and then we will be done for today. Tomorrow we will finish Mark chapter 8 by reading verse 22 through 38, I believe. So yes, and yep, so let's get started. Mark chapter 8. We're just going to read to verse 21. Jesus feeds the 4,000. Mark chapter 8. In those days, when again a great crowd had gathered and they had nothing to eat, he called his disciples to him and said to them, I have compassion on the crowd because they have been with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way. And some of them have come from far away. And his disciples answered him, How can one feed these people with bread here in this desolate place? And he asked him, How many loaves do you have? They said, 7. And he directed the crowd to sit down on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. And they set them before the crowd. And they had a few small fish. And having blessed them, he said that these also should be set before them. And they ate and were satisfied. And they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. And there were about 4,000 people. And he sent them away. And immediately he got into the boat with his disciples and went to the district of Dalmanutha. The Pharisees demand a sign. The Pharisees came and began to argue with him, seeking from him a sign from heaven to test him. And he sighed deeply in his spirit and said, Why does this generation seek a sign? Truly I say to you, no sign will be given to this generation. And he left them, got into the boat again, and went to the other side. The leaven of the Pharisees and Herod. Now they had forgotten to bring bread, and they had only 1 loaf with them in the boat. And he cautioned them, saying, Watch out, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. And they began discussing with one another the fact that they had no bread. And Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why are you discussing the fact that you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000? How many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up?" They said to him, 12. "And the 7 for the 4,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up?" And they said to him, 7. And he said to them, "Do you not yet understand?" All right, so that was Mark chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. I'm not going to do the Bible study for Mark chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. I'm going to wait until tomorrow once we finish Mark chapter 8 by reading verse 22 through 38. And then we'll do the Bible study for the entire Mark chapter 8 tomorrow. Again, I am following the Your Reading Bible schedule from esv.org. I'm reading from the English Standard Version Bible, but you can follow along with any Bible, of course. They're just different translations. So if you were to look on esv.org to follow the schedule, I started from January 1st. From that date, that way we can read from the beginning of the Old Testament straight through and from the beginning of the New Testament straight through. We read a little bit, their schedule's set up for us to read a little bit of the Old and a little bit of the New Testament every day for this entire year that we're reading through the Bible. And they do split up some of the books of the New Testament, some of the chapters, because there's more books of the Old Testament than there are of the New Testament. So they split up the chapters. Like today, I just read half of Mark chapter 8, and we'll read the other half tomorrow. They do it that way so that we can get through the entire year by reading some of the New Testament as well as the Old Testament every day. If we read straight through whole chapters of the New Testament, we'd be done with the New Testament before we finish the Old Testament because there's less books of the Bible in the New Testament. So that's why they split it up that way on esv.org. So yes, I started at January 1st's date on there so that we can start from the beginning to the end. I did not start at April's date from when we started reading the Bible this year. So the date that we are on there for today is February 28th date on their reading Bible schedule. So we read Numbers chapter 21, 22, and 23. Then we did the Bible study, and then we read actually has for us to read less of Mark chapter 8 for today, but I read a little bit more. So I read Mark chapter 8 verse 1 through 21. So I read a little bit more than what's on their schedule to read for Mark chapter 8 today. But so we're on that date though. And so that completes day 59. We are knocking out these days and knocking out these books of the Bible. We are now in the 4th book of the Old Testament, and we're in the 2nd book of the New Testament. So this is very, very exciting. So I love you guys. I'm excited for us on this journey that we're on, and I'm excited for our growth. I love you. God loves you. You are worthy. You are valuable. You matter. You are enough. And I will see you guys tomorrow for day 60. Tomorrow's day 60. Wow. All right. Have a great day. Be great.